Hello and welcome to the VSC podcast. My name is Hannah Jenarine, my pronouns are she, her, and I am the Education and Prevention Coordinator at the Victim Service Center of Central Florida. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 ways to prioritize your mental health, manage stress, and heal from trauma during the holidays. We are already in the last week of December, and while this time signifies an ending of a season or chapter in our lives, it can also bring up past memories and negative emotions. Remembering and reliving traumatic experiences through our thoughts and also feeling pressure to have New Year's resolutions can make us feel anxious, depressed, and stressed. I do want to say that these feelings are not unusual or uncommon. And if you feel like this, you are not the only one. Your healing journey is unique, different, and individualized. How you heal and recover is personal and will not look like anyone else's. So, with this being said, my goal for this episode is to provide you with strategies and coping mechanisms that you can use as you navigate through this period of your life. And after doing extensive research, studies have shown that in the process of healing from trauma, active engagement is essential. Dedicating time to prioritize your mental health and learn how to manage your stress will help you cope and heal from your trauma. And the first way that you can be actively engaged in your healing journey is to be gentle with yourself. Notice how you're feeling and what emotions come up. This could be anger, sadness, shame, and even fear. It's important to know that after a traumatic event, your emotional reactions change and fluctuate. Some days you may feel 100% okay, and others you may wake up with an overwhelming feeling of stress and sadness. Healing is not linear, and the trauma never entirely goes away, but how you respond to these feelings is what's important. Treating yourself with kindness and self-compassion helps minimize negative thoughts, and some positive self-affirmations that you can repeat to yourself are, I deserve to be safe. Although something bad happened to me, I am not a bad person. I am not my trauma, and I have something to offer the world. I also want to acknowledge that sometimes traumatic stress can evoke 2 emotional extremes, feeling either too much or too little emotion. And this is where tip number 2 comes in. The second way that you can prioritize your mental health, manage stress, and heal from trauma is to ask for help. Setting up an appointment with a therapist can help you learn how to regulate difficult emotions. These mental health counselors want and are there to help you learn new coping skills and introduce you to trauma-informed specific approaches on how to tolerate distressing emotions. If you are someone who does not want to go in person, there are virtual therapy options online. There are also many support groups that exist, and in Central Florida, the Victim Service Center has a 24/7 crisis helpline that you can call at any time, and our counselors will assist you through whatever you need. We also have numerous support groups for diverse individuals, and I also want to let you know that there is nothing wrong with asking for support. And if you feel ready to communicate and reach out to someone, whether that's a friend, a loved one, or even a professional, that is a sign of strength. The third way that you can prioritize your mental health, manage stress, and heal from trauma is to create and execute a self-care plan. A self-care plan is setting aside time throughout your day to rejuvenate and nourish yourself. It's intentionally making time to do things that help improve your physical, mental, and emotional health. And there are 4 simple ways that you can create one for yourself. The first is to take a look at your current lifestyle and identify 2 things. The first being your healthy habits. What are things that you currently do that make you feel good and connected to yourself? The second thing is identifying your not so healthy habits. What are things that you do that are not conducive to your overall well-being? So, for example, maybe right now in your life you have a skincare routine in place that you do every night, and this helps you feel calm, relaxed, and puts you in a peaceful state of mind. However, you also have an unhealthy habit that you do, which is drinking too many glasses of wine after dinner, and this makes you feel bloated, stressed out, and angry. Understanding and identifying what your current habits are lets you know what is and isn't working. So once you take a deep self-inventory, the second part of creating a self-care plan is identifying your needs. What is important to you mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, etc.? For me, I value spending time alone. I value exercising. I value sleep. I value self-reflection. And once you identify what your needs are, the next step is to create practices that support these needs. So going back to mine, since I value spending time alone, a part of my self-care plan is spending an hour by myself and with my thoughts before I go to work. Since I value sleep, going to bed at 10 instead of 11 will ensure that I get 7 hours. And finally, the last step in your self-care plan is to implement these practices and fit them in your schedule. Remove your old and negative habits with these new practices, because doing these activities will ensure that you are living in alignment with your values and your needs. The fourth way that you can prioritize your mental health, manage stress, and heal from trauma is to learn to say no and communicate your boundaries. I understand and I know how difficult it can be to say no to friends, family, and coworkers because we don't want to disappoint people. However, when we say yes to everything all the time, what we're doing is putting more stress on ourselves to do things that we don't have the time and energy for. And also, by doing things that we don't want to do, we create inner turmoil and create conflict within ourselves. There's this quote that I want to share with you, written by Brianna Weist, and she says, "Each time you break your own boundaries in order to ensure that someone else likes you, you like yourself a little less." So some phrases that you can use when saying no and expressing what your boundaries are include, "I cannot stay after work today to finish this project because I already have a prior commitment, but I can finish it tomorrow at 10 a.m. You can say, "I don't feel comfortable when you do XYZ. I don't appreciate the way you're speaking to me. Can you please not shout?" And "I don't like parties and I don't want to go," among many other different ways to say no. And finally, the fifth way that you can prioritize your mental health, manage stress, and heal from trauma is to practice grounding techniques. Grounding techniques take you from an unregulated and turbulent state of mind to calmness. There are many different techniques that you can try, and a few of the hundreds that are out there include running your hands over cold water, taking a short walk, and practicing deep breathing. One of my favorite grounding techniques is the 5-4-3-2-1 mechanism, where you can sit or stand and you're basically in a calm state of mind. You identify 5 things you can see in front of you, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This helps you focus on the present moment, and ultimately it keeps you grounded. So these are the 5 of many ways that you can prioritize your mental health, manage stress, and heal from trauma during the holidays. If you want to see more content like this, please feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn your post notifications on. And remember that healing is not linear and you are not alone. The Victim Service Center is a nonprofit organization that provides free, confidential counseling services for victims of any kind of trauma in Central Florida. The views and opinions expressed by podcast participants are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Victim Service Center of Central Florida. This podcast content is made available for informational and educational purposes, and the VSC does not make any representation or warranties with respect to the accuracy or completeness of the content. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate, We welcome any comments, suggestions, or corrections of error. To learn more about our services, please visit victimservicecenter.org. And to everyone listening, healing is not linear, and you are not alone.